You're listening to the Coast Business Radio podcast.
Dave Rubin launched his political talk show, The Rubin Report, in 2015, and his guests are both people he agrees and disagrees with, including those who have been dismissed, deplatformed and despised, but not beheaded. As a result, he's become a voice of reason in a time of madness. The Rubin Report is about free speech and big ideas, and taken on the most controversial issues of the day. It's on YouTube, and as an audio podcast, has over 1 million YouTube subscribers and is a top political podcast on Apple and Spotify, and a brand new book. Don't burn this book. Thinking for Yourself in an Age of Unreason. Dave Rubin, welcome.
It's good to be with you. You know, I'm going to have to confirm that none of my guests have been beheaded. I think you're correct, but I'm going to have to check the paperwork here because, you know, things move fast these days. You never know.
Okay, why do you call this an age of unreason?
Well, you know, the idea of sitting down with people that you agree with and that you disagree with and not beheading them, that is something that humans have been doing for a long time. I mean, you know, this shouldn't be new. This shouldn't be something that's considered unique or rocket science. And yet it is. You know, wherever you travel, I've traveled the world over the last couple of years touring, and I was on a speaking tour with Jordan Peterson. Got to spend plenty of time in Australia, by the way, which was absolutely wonderful. But whether you're in Australia or in the States, or you're in the UK or in Canada, or wherever you are, we did a bunch of the Nordic countries. Somehow the idea of just chatting about things honestly seems to have really been lost. And, you know, what humans have that separates us from the animals is the ability to think. It's the ability to reason. And you need to map reality against someone else. When you ask me a question, I can give you an answer. I can follow up in a way that allows you to follow me up in another way, and then we can do the intellectual dance. When we can't do that because we're attacking each other, well, it leads to unreason. So I think part of the reason, so to speak, that we're so polarized these days is because we're just refusing to have the conversation. And I've been one of the people that's trying to fix that.
On your videos, a theme that comes out of the videos and from the book and people you've spoken to, you seem to worry that people won't stand up for what they believe in.
Yeah, I think this is actually probably the biggest affliction in the West that we're dealing with right now. I mean, outside of coronavirus, obviously. This idea that good people who have what I would say are generally moderate political views are just afraid to say what they think. I mean, think of anybody in 2020. If you live in any of the Western nations, man, you have it so much better than your grandparents. I'm sure if you think for a moment, or any of your listeners think for a moment about their grandparents or great-grandparents or generations before them, it's like, damn, we got it good. We're walking around with iPhones and we're telling people that we're oppressed. This is kind of crazy. So I'm trying to get people to understand that, yeah, we've got it good, but that's tenuous at best because there are always forces looking to take away that goodness, and that we better fight for it and not be afraid to say what you think. If, you know, to walk around in America in 2020 and be afraid to say you're for low taxes or states' rights or you're a Trump supporter or whatever it may be, it's a very, very dangerous thing because you're giving oxygen to the people that would gladly take away your freedoms.
My whole family are liberal or lefties, and very much on the side of the left, and I'm on the other side, of course. I'm waving that flag by myself and haven't yet been beheaded. And there's two things that they do when I bring something up, because they like to have the final say, as families do. And it's either, there he goes again, or my dad goes, ha, ha, ha. And that's it. And it's no discussion. Really frustrating. So why do you think people need guidance to think for themselves? Why has it become harder taking my family out of the picture?
Well, we shouldn't take your family out of the picture because a lot of this does start with family in a way. You know, you learn from family either how to communicate or how not to communicate. And sometimes if they teach you how to communicate well, you can take that into the world. Sometimes if they teach you how to not communicate, it can stumble you out into the world when you don't know how to do it. I think there's many reasons that we've ended up in this situation. I think a lot of the reasons have to do with our education system. I think a lot of the reasons are that the bad ideas of the day, so say identity politics, this idea that we should group each other based on, our sexuality and our gender and our skin color and things that really most of us free people don't really care about. I don't, when I meet somebody, I don't care if they're man or woman or gay or straight or black or white. It's like, if you're an interesting person, you got something to say, you're fun or whatever it might be. It's like, that's what I'm interested in. But, identity politics have seeped in a very dangerous way. And then what happens is they're easy to accept. It's very easy to accept, oh, black people should think this, gay people should think this, women should think this. And then to deprogram people out of that is really tough. And I think a lot of young people are dealing with that, where they see their friends sort of get brainwashed by these very simple yet wrong ideas. And it takes work to get people out of that. It ain't easy.
You were once a lefty or a liberal, and now you've come over to the other side. You've done it twice in your life. Which was harder, coming out and telling the world that you're gay, or coming out and telling the world that you've seen the light? Hallelujah, brother.
Well, I'll tell you, I get a lot more hate for this one than the gay one. Nobody cares about the gay thing. Now, that's not to say that over generations that hasn't been difficult. And I would say I can only speak for myself in this regard, most of my pain related to being gay was internal, and an inside job, so to speak. It was things that I thought people may think of me, not what really they ended up thinking about me. If anything, virtually every relationship I had was enriched once people fully knew who I was and I was able to really express myself, as a full, complete person. On the other hand, coming out as virtually anything but a progressive, but a card-carrying intersectional lefty, you're going to get a tremendous amount of hate from the left, and that keeps a lot of people in that political closet. So, if I say anything on Twitter, I get an army of, pink anime foxes telling me the worst possible things, and they're all lefties. Yet, ironically, I take positions in this book that are not all thought of as conservative or right positions. I make a pro-choice argument in this book. That's a big no-no for conservatives. Yet I get nothing but love from conservatives. They're willing to agree to disagree. They like to talk it out. So I would say coming out of the political closet has had much more of a negative cost. But I would say that negative cost has absolutely been worth it.
Has the liberal or the left evolved from, when I was at school, they didn't have wooden wheels and stagecoaches at that stage. They actually didn't have stagecoaches, some say. But has it changed from then, from 20, 30 years ago to now? The liberal or the lefty seems to be more of a beast and a controlling beast.
Well, that's not what liberalism is supposed to be, and that's why one of the things I try to do all the time is explain to people, leftism and liberalism have nothing to do with each other. Liberalism, in its truest sense, is live and let live, which many people in a modern way think of as libertarianism. Liberals are generally open-minded, and I think liberals like to use logic and reason and those things. Progressivism saw the weak underbelly of liberalism. It saw the tolerance of liberals and said, that's the way to get in. And then it got in there, and it brought all of its collectivist, socialist, authoritarian ideas. And it basically eliminated the liberals. So there aren't really many people waving the flag of true liberalism anymore. In many ways, I always tell people that defending my liberal principles is becoming a conservative position. The liberals, if you're a Star Wars guy, basically they executed Order 66 on the liberals, and they've taken them out like they took out the Jedi. And there's a couple scattered throughout the galaxy, but they're having trouble communicating.
Okay, big government. The left love it. They don't question it. Is this apathy, ignorance, dishonesty, or, according to Dave Rubin, is this something more sinister?
I think you could probably make arguments for all of the ways you just described it. The idea of big government, the idea that this big sort of central planning albatross can tell us all what to do and that it somehow is inherently good and will not go out of control. I think it's just a childlike dream. Most of the bad things that have been done in history have been done by big governments in the name of being good. That's what progressives and lefties and socialists always forget. All the times where socialism tried to appear, it came in the name of equality and decency for everyone and free this, free that. And then you end up killing a lot of people in the process. Because these ideas are very anti-individual. So then free people try to stand up to it, and they usually get taken out. At a business level, I think the thing that I'm most proud of, actually, is that when I talk about my small government principles, low taxes, low regulation, the light touch of government, those are the exact principles that I've built my business with. And I have a very successful business that's highly profitable. I pay my guys extremely well. I pay for all of their health insurance. And by the way, I do that not because I'm some benevolent leader, but the more that I treat my team well, the harder they'll work for me. And that in turn allows us to grow and do the things that I want to do. That's the beauty of capitalism and competition. There are win-win situations as opposed to socialism where it's some people will win. And then once they do, you got to take a lot of stuff from them.
You believe every problem the government solves makes the problem worse.
Oh, yeah. Almost everything that we talk about politically is a government solution to a government problem. It's just putting a Band-Aid on another government problem. That doesn't mean that all government, I'm not an anarchist. I do believe that some government should exist. And that, by the way, is why I say I'm a classical liberal, which believes in the light touch of government, as opposed to, libertarians really want to strip the government away altogether. And I think there's some interesting intellectual arguments for that. But I think that you need I would say it's an unfortunate reality. You need some government to keep the wheels on a functional society.
Just quickly, before we go, because we only have so much time and I talk too much, so I've got to be...
No, I've enjoyed it.
Do you think we have actually overreacted to COVID-19 because the cure is looking like it's going to be a lot worse than the actual disease?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because, you could also argue that the lockdowns and everything we've done perhaps did stop the spread of the disease so effectively that all the models were wrong, which is great. That's fantastic. I think the more interesting part, which is really what you're alluding to, is, all right, well, now we did it. And now we're watching world economies collapse. Now we're all trapped like hamsters in our houses, and this is not how humans are supposed to live. So I think we have to responsibly start opening up. Fortunately, in the United States, we're seeing some states take that into their own hands. I live in California, which is still under lockdown, and it looks like it's going to be extended. I'm not sure how much longer I can stay here. Because I don't trust the officials. I don't trust the government officials to make the right decisions. Even if they told us that, some 5% of the people were going to die, which would be horrific. I mean, the numbers are nowhere close to that. I think even that, you'd still have to figure out how to eventually open up society. I don't sense that they're doing this truly just to keep us safe. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the motive is exactly. But yes, I think it's possible that the cure is now becoming worse than the disease.
And to be safe really isn't living, is it? Because if you want it to be really safe, you just don't come outside. You just stay inside and watch Dave Rubin report every day.
Well, that would be fine with me, but those who would trade liberty for freedom deserve neither.
Okay, your book, Don't Burn This Book, now at don'tburnthisbook.com. We'll talk again later. Dave Rubin, thank you very much.
I've enjoyed talking to you and hope to get out. We were going to do an Australian leg of the tour for this thing, so I hope we'll eventually make that happen probably in 2021.